Mr. Sanjay Kumar Chadha, he is a managing partner of a law firm named BSK Legal. BSK Legal is one of India's leading firm headquartered in New Delhi and other offices in Noida and Mumbai. The firm has an all India presence through its alliance with local councils at different locations from all states and union territories of India. Being a full-service law firm, the firm is capable of providing legal services on all aspects of clients' business. The firm's domestic and international clients include leading private and public listed Indian companies, various government-owned undertakings, leading IT companies, banks and financial institutions, insurance companies and multinational companies, and other foreign entities. Advocate Sanjay Kumar Chadha is a regular contributor on national TV and print media. He has appeared in various webinars and has given his views on India leading news channel on crucial issues. It's an honor for all of us to host you, sir. Thank you, sir, for always supporting Legal Hut. It's the second time we are hosting you, and I hope there are many more to come. For everyone who is now on streaming, please leave the questions below for sir, and if you allow, sir, can we start?
Most certainly. Thank you very much, Bhumika. And it is always a pleasure to be part of the students and especially your endeavor. I congratulate you for organizing such kind of events, which are really enlightening for the students more so. Today, we are going to talk about, in a very brief, because as given to understand that it is just 20-minute session. So the topic itself is such a broad that even 2 hours are less, I would say. So without going into much here and there, I would, Article 19, it provides for 6 freedoms. All of us are well aware of it. And one is freedom of speech and expression. I would say freedom of speech and expression is one of the most fundamentals of all the fundamental rights which are enshrined in Part 3 of our Constitution. When this particular right, freedom, was enshrined during the debate in the Constituent Assembly, there was the assembly was divided on this particular issue, whether it should be, there are few people who were opposing it. They were saying that this particular right, this particular freedom should be an absolute freedom, because they all knew about it, that it is the freedom which is the root of a democracy, I must say. For a vibrant democracy, this is the most fundamental right which should have been there. And it should be absolute. That was the view taken by one side of people. There were these set of people were saying that we are now, if at all we restrain this right, it will be going back to the British era. Putting restriction is nothing but British practice. It would have been, we have not changed. That was their case. But large number of majority rather was of the view that these restrictions, this right should not be an absolute right. There should be some restrictions on it. In the entire world, you can see that in whichever constitution this right is given, whichever law under which this right is given, we have seen it is not an absolute right. They have created exceptions, they have given exceptions. Law and order is required to be under certain, law and order required some restrictions. We have to maintain the law and order, the security of the nation, defamation, public health, morality. All these are very important points which cannot be compromised. The national security cannot be compromised. So these restrictions were allowed as provided in the draft constitution in 1948. The same was allowed in 1950 when we adopted it. A word reasonable was added in front of the word restriction. So reasonable restrictions were given. That is what is, I would say, the historical perspective of this. And this is, as I said, this is the most fundamental of the fundamental rights. After Article 21, if you ask me or anybody, we have various judgments where this is being specifically stated so by Honorable Supreme Court. Article 19(1)(a), it provides for freedom of speech and expression. Now, in the Constitution itself, if we go through, nowhere specifically it is mentioned that freedom of speech and expression or freedom of press to the press is not mentioned anywhere. Because many of our listeners today are law students. We all know that press is the fourth pillar of the democracy. It gives a, because of press, we are able to know what is happening. Journalists are considered, journalism per se is considered to be the fourth pillar of the democracy and a very strong pillar of the democracy. It's not that basically this is something. What I wanted to say here is that it is what the Constitution has not specifically mentioned, but as per the freedom of, as enumerated in Article 19(1)(a), this is the freedom is from where the press also takes the freedom. In the matter of Ramesh Thapar versus State of Maharashtra, it was very clearly stated that this freedom lays the foundation of all the democratic organizations. These were the words. Even in today's context, this judgment of Union of India versus Association of Democratic Reforms, Supreme Court has, it is very relevant if we see it in today's context. The Supreme Court has said that one-sided information, disinformation, misinformation, non-information, all this will create uninformed citizens. All these four things, misinformed, non-informed, disinformed, one-sided informed citizens are uninformed citizens. That's what Supreme Court said. And that's what, if we see in today's context, that judgment is very, very relevant today. All the students, law students, must go through this judgment. The freedom of speech and expression includes right to impart the information, right to receive the information. The ambit of this this article includes both receiving and giving. I remember in the judgment I just quoted, Union of India versus Association of Democratic Reforms, the Supreme Court has stated the right or the freedom given, enumerated in Article 19(1)(a) includes, it has three facets: freedom to access all source of information, one facet; freedom of publication, second facet; and third, which is very important, is freedom of circulation. It should reach each and every person. As we call it, the information should reach jana jana. Then only the proper circulation will, if there is a proper circulation, then only each and every citizen will be educated, informed citizen rather. And if our citizens are informed, our democracy will be vibrant. If our citizens are not informed, it is not good for the democracy. It's a very well settled proposition. I would like to mention here a judgment of Sakal Paper Limited versus Union of India, where the central government has restrained, put a restriction on the, what you call, the maximum number of pages of the newspaper. And a similar kind of restriction was in Bennett Coleman versus Union of India also. The court has very categorically and very strictly stated that it is nothing but violation of Article 19(1)(a). 19(1)(a). And it does not, such restriction is not within the peripheries, within the restriction already enumerated in 19(2). This restriction is not covered under Article 19(2). That's what Supreme Court very clearly stated. What are the reasonable restrictions? It is the need that we must see that. What are the reasonable restrictions? Reasonable restrictions are very clearly enumerated, as I have just said. Security of the state cannot be compromised. That is one restriction. Friendly relation with the foreign country, foreign nation. If something against that is written, that is not acceptable, or published, that is not acceptable. Public order, decency, morality, contempt of court. If anything of this sort is there, it's not acceptable. Defamation. You can't publish defamatory material. If at all you do so, the fact of the matter is you will be liable to be prosecuted. If it is, they're both civil as well as criminal liabilities are there. And if at all, it entirely, there can be a great fine, as we were just seeing. Other than that, you cannot write or publish something which is incitement of an offense. sovereignty and integrity of the country. That is another very important aspect. You cannot take away these reasonable restrictions, I must say. And you cannot do something which is enumerated in 19.2. And if at all you are involved in any of these restrictions, you don't follow, you will be liable for that. Now, one very important thing which is I want to mention here, these reasonable restrictions can only be imposed by law. One has to be very, very careful. That should be, these restrictions should be duly passed by or enacted by law. And and what you call executive action cannot put such restrictions. So these restrictions, 8 in number, as provided in 19.2, can only be, this is very important, these restrictions can only be imposed by virtue of a law. Official Secret Act, need not to mention all that. We have seen, if we come to the current situation, prior to which I would like to say something about what happened in the initial years when we saw that after independence, I would say at least for 4-5 decades, first 40-50 years, the press was dominated and rather more under the control of the government. Primarily, I would say during the at the time of independence, All India Radio was one of the most important part of press, and it was totally under the control of the government. I remember Mrs. Gandhi said once that yes, All India Radio as well as Doordarshan, they are primarily government bodies. So they will not criticize the government, which is one of the requirement of a vibrant democracy, as I say. But during the new era of globalization, liberalization, 1990s onwards, the private control has taken place over these authorities, over these important media. Private players got the greater role. It led to a greater independence, no doubt about it. Greater government scrutiny was also required simultaneously. So 1990 onwards, I would say more openness was there, and it didn't remain within the boundaries of the country. We have to see global village, concept of global village was totally applicable to the media, totally applicable to the press. Our people, we used to see the international channels, and we are still seeing them. So that began in the 1994, 5 onwards, those things, 1990 onwards. If I talk about, so that continued. If I talk further about the current regime, 2014 onwards, now a new development has taken place. I've been very, very blunt about it, that now media houses are being controlled. We all are aware of it. To a great extent, we see there is interference also in the working of media. I put a question to myself whether it is for the good or what. We have seen government's interference. There's no doubt about it. Media is totally, if I say, especially the electronic media, is totally controlled by some business houses. That is a new thing. It was not there in our system. We have seen what had happened that I remember Press Freedom Index. I think we are at out of 180 countries. Press Freedom Index is there. You just see we are 138th in that. So in our country, out of the 180 countries where this index is being used, we are currently at 138th number. We are the biggest democracy of the world. And in the biggest democracy of the world, if we are at 138th number, I would say it is a matter of shame. I would also touch upon incidences of media trial. We all know that everybody has a right for free trial. It is a constitutional or rather a statutory right which everybody has. But if in a case, if media jumps in, what happens? We all are well aware. What happened in Sushant Singh Rajput's case? There are few channels which are totally 24/7 showing that thing. Critics say that the ultimate objective was not to show that, but to hide other things. We have seen cases, news, that how these media houses are fighting for TRP. A case was also uh, initiated against one of my friends, and he was in jail also. Arnab, he had to go to the jail. Was this issue so big that he was supposed to go to the jail? It's a it's a question mark, I must say. Now coming back to for 2-3 minutes, I would like to talk about what media trial has done and what is media trial per se, and whether it is legally allowed or not. These 3-4 points I would say, and then, of course, if there are some questions, I would love to answer them. As I was saying, that everybody has a right for a free trial. Now, what happens once the matter is covered, described, reported so in a such a big manner? Don't you think judges are influenced? I feel they are also human beings. We have seen in this country only the courts have been passing order against this media trial. Courts have passed order where reporting of an individual case is restrained by the court, and media was restrained from reporting any of the uh, reporting of the case. I remember uh, Abhishek Manu Singhvi case. Delhi High Court had passed an order. No media or even certain clips which were posted in the social media were forced to be removed. That was the order. You have to remove them. So courts have time and again passed an order wherever it was required. Courts have criticized media trial also many a time. But there are incidences which I would like to quote here, where we have seen that our media has played a very critical role and very important role. Priyadarshini Mattu case, Jessica Lal case, Nitish Katana case, Bajal Joshi rape and murder case. All these cases would not have given the similar kind of judgment which the judgment which we saw would not have been there if media would not have played an important role in these cases. But what happened in Arushi Talwar case? What was the role of media? What was the role of media in Janendra Saraswati case, where all Madras High Court and Chennai, Supreme Court, what Supreme Court has said? Criticize the media's role. Now I'll tell you a few other cases which are very relevant, just stuck to me. Adarsh case, CWG case, Sufna Lake case, or on this 2G scam case. All these cases were because of the media. We have seen the role of media is so important that governments have gone. Rajiv Gandhi's government gone. Bofors was the only issue. And what was the outcome? As a matter of fact, no country allows media trial. But we see in practice, it is there. The investigative journalism, as they call it. We see media taking active part in, rather day to day, hour by hour, minute by minute reporting of judgments we have seen. So positive side is also there. We should not forget this. As I mentioned, series of cases where role of media was very positive. But there are n number of cases where media's role was not correct. This, as we call it, media as a fourth pillar, its job is very, very responsible. We have to see this. It is very, very important that you don't give the judgment prior to the trial. But that's what happens here when the media trial goes. As we know that everybody has a right of free trial, that is one thing. In addition to that, each one has right of reputation. So one has to keep this in mind. Prejudging a case, or rather prejudging a sub judice matter, is not proper, I would say. It is improper. So I would just like to say here that media houses, as of today, they have to keep a balance. No prejudging of a sub judice matter. This should be a rule very strictly followed. And we have a set of rules regulation. Press council is rules regulations are there, but we all know how they have been adhered by these media houses. So, as I have already exceeded my limit, I would request the organizers to put across any questions if they are there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful explanation. Thank you. Now, if you allow, shall we begin with question and answer round?
Yeah, I'm there. Please.
Okay. So, the first question that we have from live chat is, how can one control misinformation, disinformation, or one sided information?
It's a very good question. How to control? That is what there can be two type of, I would say, one publication and other post publication. Now there should be a set of rules. They're already existing, I must say, and various judgments have been passed by our honorable courts, wherein it is very categorically mentioned that what the media people should follow and how they can uh, how responsibly they should act. So certainly we have to adhere to those guidelines. Pre publication, they have to see whether the information is correct. They should not be, as I was saying, one sided information. If you publish, I give an example here. What happened in this farmers agitation? A set of media was giving such an news that they are, part of, they are not, they are Khalistani or something like that. Was it the truth? No, I would say no. If you see other set of media, so why this division is there? What out of this division, the sufferers are we people. These media houses, one media house is supporting one side of a story, the other media house is supporting other side of a story, and ultimately look at the opposition. Look at the opposition to these media houses. That is also been seen here. That's all. I think we have to regulate, control this three things which you have just said: misinformation, disinformation, and one sided information. And it is very necessary. It is very, very necessary for a vibrant democracy that these three things should be curbed. They should not be allowed. And if such thing is placed before or catered to the masses, such event should be treated very, very strictly. And there should be a huge penalty. There are countries where, in case you misinform, wrongly inform, or propagate something which is wrong, it is taken to be where big penalty is imposed upon such person, such media house who is propagating such information, such wrong knowledge. I think if there is another question, Bhumika.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful answer. I think we have taken so much of your time. So, thank you, sir, for always supporting Legal Hut. Thank you so much. And it's the second time that we are having you, and this time it was really a wonderful session, and I personally love the explanation, like really. So,
It was
for
a very short discussion, as
yes, sir, yeah, it was
you
really short
gave
and
me
precise,
a very
and
short
the
time
way
also.
you, yeah, and the
It's
way
just
you, this,
thank you very much.
and the way you explained it was really amazing. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you
So,
very much.
for everyone who is now on streaming, the link of feedback form has been dropped in the live chat below. So please fill that form, and we hope that your suggestions are going to help us. Thank you everyone for being such a wonderful audience and making this event a success. Please keep checking our updates on Instagram and YouTube page. So I think we should wind up this session. So this is Legal Head signing off. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you very much. Take care.